Igbo bụ Igbo. Igbo bụ Igbo birikwenụ ụtụtụ ọma, ehihie ọma, mgbede ọma, depending your time zone. Anyị ga-adị ka echi. Maka na echi adịghị awụ awụ ka anyị na-agwa ya ọ bụ na isonye bụ what are you waiting for? Click the like button, subscribe, comment, share. If anyị na-ekwu na nke ikpeazụ oye elowe. If you are just coming across our channel for the very first time, you are welcome. This is Kelena TV. We are live and we are direct, bringing you the gospel of redemption by your doorstep. If I make common sense, there is an abron in Marif. If I can marry for Kalai gas, I know what if you did you guys you went up to. I just want to make common sense as always. Happy New Year. It is going to be a quick one. The king rejoice. The king won. Your joy will be unlimited this year. Unlimited joy. Testimonies upon testimonies. Breakthrough upon breakthroughs. Laughter upon laughter. Before my game, all of us of truth. Before my game, all supporters of truth. Jebe, ye jeru. Inabana be ya naru. Obasinjo. Wapiro. May you be preserved. May you be preserved. May you be preserved. May you be protected. May you be secured by Ezechiel. Abiyama Premier. He said, N'ime ọnọdụ niile, Ezechiel ga-emere onwe ya. Anyị ga-afụrịrị ụzọ anyị ga-esi wee ga-emere ya bụ ọnwụnwa. Yes. No matter what Bongo and it leaders throw to us, by the special grace of God, may we escape. Now, he said, let me now show you something you need to know. I need the new task. It is from Arise TV, from Sam Amadi. Let us go and listen to him. Very important. And here you have it. Let's go.
The new Tax Act, which is set to take effect in January, has been generating quite a lot of reactions, as Nigerians have continued to express their displeasure at the new tax laws. Former Vice President Atiku Abubakar has faulted the National Assembly's move to re-gazette the recently passed tax reform laws, saying a fresh passage is a solution to the crisis, rocking implementation by January 1, 2026. Atiku said the attempt to rush a re-gazetting of the law while stalling legislative investigation undermines parliamentary oversight and sets a dangerous precedent. He stated that a law that was never passed in the form in which it was published is not a law, but a nullity. Joining us on this show to discuss lingering controversy over multiple versions of the new tax law and the way forward is Dr. Sam Amadi, Arise News analyst. Dr. Amadi, good morning and welcome to the Morning Show.
Make it a habit, a 10-minute AI routine every morning. You'll be unrecognized.
Thank you, Dr. Abati, and the best crew on television. Good morning. Compliment to the season.
Morning. Well, thank you for the compliment. Well, we don't want to masturbate. I don't know about best crew on television. But quickly, let me ask you, what's your take on the controversy around the tax laws?
Well, first, let me say that this is of serious dimension. Again, we've seen possible executive overreach, whether in terms of the executive not following the law strictly, whether in terms of executive trying to use executive powers, executive orders of the president to undermine legislative, jurisdiction, whether in the U.S., elsewhere in the world. But what is remarkable about this is that it touches on possible criminality in terms of forgery. Okay, now, classically defined by the Supreme Court, the forgery exists when there's an original of something and a fake or a simulation, if you like, of that original, which is passed off as the original. So in this case, if, as it's been established, the gazetted version, quote unquote, of the tax law is not exactly what the National Assembly passed, then it means that there is prima facie a case of forgery, because whoever did it and presented it as what is passed and ascertained. There's a deeper dimension here. Many years ago, I think in 1981, the Supreme Court, in the case of A.G. Bendel and A.G. Federation, laid a classical statement around legislative process. It is true that the Constitution grants National Assembly the power to self-regulate, but the Constitution is very clear, following precedents in the U.S. Constitution and elsewhere, that the valid law would be one that goes through what we call double passage, meaning the House, the Senate passes, and presentment, which is the president is sent to the president for consent. And so the Supreme Court in that case was an appropriation act, and there was a crisis, a different variation of the House and the Senate, and at the Joint Committee, the House normalized and harmonized, but did not go back to the two houses to pass the harmonized version and sent to the President for assent. The Supreme Court, Benel State, took the Federation to court, and the Supreme Court invalidated that appropriation act. I made it very clear that what the Constitution requires is that every act must have been passed by both houses, the same version, and sent to the President for consent before it becomes law. Now, two things are possible here. Either they harmonized, what we had in the committee had different versions, and they met a transcorp with perhaps a few executive members, and they finally got a draft, a harmonized version, and passed it. Now, the question then is what the president assented to the same as what the two houses deliberated, harmonized, and passed? If it is so, then someone else forged what is no longer a valid law, because the law that the president signed is the law that was passed, the bill that was passed by both houses. Or is it that the bill that was passed by the both houses was not what was sent to the president for assent, which means the president's assent is invalid because he assented to not what was passed by both houses. So if you don't look at these two scenarios, the ratification changes. So if, for example, Mr. President assented to a version different from what the two houses passed, the president's assent is invalid, and therefore no law exists to be validly gazetted. If the president actually consented to what the two houses passed, but someone wrongly, illegally took it and changed it and gazetted it, then there's clear forgery of what was passed, and therefore that has to be investigated and prosecuted. At any rate, there must be an audit of what actually happened before you begin to take remedial action.
Okay, thank you so much. And I think it's important for us to break this down, Dr. Amadi. There's been a lot of information flying around and people don't have a true picture of what is going on. So it's good for us to really dissect that. Now, I hear you and it aligns with some of the thoughts presented by some people like former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, the NBA, who have asked for a suspension or doing away until things are done properly. However, there's also the argument put forward by Mr. Taiwo Yedele when he came here that doing so would mean that there would be a lacuna, there would be a gap, because the old law has been repealed, and therefore it would impact revenue generation. And of course, at this point in time, no one wants to touch that. We need revenue. We need to service our budgets. We need to, spend money. How do we then fix that? How do we address that? Is that not throwing the baby away with the bathwater? Should we not address the specific concerns that people have in terms of the insertions rather than doing away totally with the law?
My name is Hannah. I am 31 years old and I've lost 38 kilograms in 8 months.
Very good point. And I think it's part of theocracy, technocracy. Technocrats are prone to look at market-based solution. Just the key point here is fiscal buoyancy. We just want to get money in. And therefore, we don't need to get ourselves bogged down by legalese. But it's not so in real life. So first, if the act that is now being contested against has not been validly passed, is the one that nullified the previous tax law, then that notification is invalid. So the old tax law exists as if it has not been nullified. So that's number one as a legal response. And that's assuming that the same law is a law that nullified the existing one. So you go back to the status quo before the legislation. But again, beyond that, if you look at the 1 week or two that we've had this crisis, we've had National Assembly pass law in 1 day, seen the old anthem repealed in 1 day. So the first issue to do is, and fiscal policy is not just about revenue. In fact, the state formation, those who study political economy knows that states became states through fiscal reform, because the ability to task their citizens' territory goes with the ability to exercise power, authority, and therefore to bring together from banditry. The states evolved from banditry because central authority built a bureaucracy, legality, constitution. All of them are tied together to physical authority. But people dismantle fiscal power from the constitutional and political economy aspect. So if a country has to task its citizen, the minimum is that you're tasking based on valid law. So you don't just say, okay, let's remove those contentious, sections and then assume that the existing ones are legal. No, the crisis they run into is that anytime you alter a law, that not passed, that you have nullified, you just nullified, you have destroy the basis of democracy, which is, this is why we have National Assembly members. They don't even know that they are very important. But they are there because the jurisprudence of law is that the people themselves are the ones making law for themselves. In fact, it's the people who are asking you to tax them through the law. And so if their representative did not do that, make that law, then that is invalid and it hurts democracy. It hurts legitimacy. It's possible, actually, that any tax collected could be invalidated by the court. So yes, make it slowly. It's good that we just cut the corner and get into this so-called tax heaven where we're going to have a lot of money flowing. That's fine. But again, sit back and say, you're actually being clever by half. You have damaged the social contract that supports tax. You've also created a lot of possibility for self-help and for transgression against the state. So keeping the legal order proper is actually much more sensible for economic buoyancy at this point.
Okay, two things. Part of the tax laws, some of them are already in effect. There are 4 bills put together. The bill for the establishment of NRS and all of that, Joint Tax Board, they're already in effect. So what do we do as regards the bills that are already in effect? That's number one. Number two, in all of this conundrum, we don't know the truth yet because they have not shown us the harmonized bill. So the harmonized...
Over an 8 Bongo and the Bongorian say, I forget what's up. Bongo and Bongorians. Bongo and Bongorians.
This bill that they sent, they have not still shown us the harmonized bill. What we are seeing, the conundrum is the gazetted word. Can we call for them to release that harmonized bill? And is this attempt to regazette, is it admission of guilt? Because you only regazette when you have like typographical errors and the likes. But if something substantial that throws out the policy narrative in there is in there as a bone of contention, and we are saying we quickly want to regazette. So just makes those clarifications, sir.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so let me start with the first one. The laws, there are 5 laws, tax administration, different laws. Anyone that's not afflicted, so to say, with this crisis is validly passed, so they exist. Now, the one we're dealing with is this one that is alleged to have been altered. The second point I would like to say is that, look, you're right. The problem is actually National Assembly failure of leadership. And it's good for Senator Babio to fancy himself as a deal maker, as managerial person, but you're a legislative person. You're not, yes, it's good to engage with executive government. And by the way, nobody thinks that a Senate, House of Reps, controlled by the same party would obstruct the president. It's not done. You give him the tools to govern well, but you need to also protect your procedure. So this is not against Tinubu or for Tinubu. This is fundamental. So I expected Babio and his people to come out clear and say, first, the legislative business is a business of due process and records. And that's why even in constitutional interpretation, the primary work of constitutional interpretation in advanced jurisdiction is to look at what we call the legislative history in understanding what each law means. And that you go back to what was said, the hazard, will cover everything. So you recreate the minutes, the process. So we needed to have by now gotten a clear copy, not even of the bill itself passed, but also the procedure to show what was actually approved. Because the committee of the whole that scrutinized these 2 variations would have done a report. This is what we have harmonized. That does not happen. So you have to first come clear to protect your procedure. It seems like that is not just forgery. That's also a classical case of cover up. Right. And that's not good for the image of this government. Absolutely. It's not even good for the credibility and the sustainability of the tax regime itself.
Indeed. Thank you so much for your time with us, Dr. Sam Amadi. We'll continue this conversation because I believe it's not yet done, at least until we know what's happening on the 1st of January, whether or not we are going to proceed with the implementation of the law when it will take its full effect. But thank you for your time with us today.
Bongo and the Bongorians. That is the truth. Something that is important as this tax and tax law. Something that is important as this tax law. We say, and I know something like forgery. Obodo bongo onwe ife a ga-emezi dị obodo petia something ịma no ife ịrụrụ n'ike masị na ọka ka na-anakwa gị ego n'ife ịrụta ife a ka fa chọkwa ka eme ya daizi amasị mmafa na-eme ya ka atụdoyi n'onu ka ị ga n'ikwu okwu daizi. I don't understand, man. I am not surprised anyway because I'm n'ọkụ obodo Bongoti. Mana ife a bụ ife je na-egosi gị na dị obodo nwere ife a ga-eme ya ka emeta ya. Nobody can. At least o nwere ife ekwesịrị ipresent before ekwugo okwu tax. Enwere ife nwere whole lot ekwesịrị ịkpa aka fees gasị ya before ekwugo okwu tax. Then ị na-akwụ tax ị nwezie hope na ị na-akwụ tax na ife a ga-adị beta. Ọ bụ ụzọ ka a rụgoro nnọọ ụzọ adị mma ekwesịzi based on ụzọ adịgo mma na-akwụ tax na ị na-akwụ tax na ụzọ a na-aga na-abịa na-eme upgrade ka ọ nọrọ to standard. Ọ bụrụ na akwụkwọ ka a rụgoro na asị gị na ụlọ akwụkwọ a na ife weta o ji wee dị ntu a na-abụ na anatabeghị ego tax ma anatabeghị ego tax na ewere akpakwuo ya aka ọgbagokwuo. Ọ bụ mmiri dị ka ịpụrụ ebe etinye gasị mmiri wee sị na ife weta na orubeghị ebe ọbụla ife weta na ọgbagotebe ntu o si wee kwesị ịgbagote by in circulation. Oh, now whoever tax. Now what tax now? Need to get no gonna. Obu no mo de. Oba sin na put tax now. About who I go to or Oburu no would they? Oburu. What if I at least to show us now? Nina, Anna no stars. Nego now. Ina anya funa na eti ya na efe a efu na ọrụ na-aga onwere ife a just like ife anyị na-agabiga anyị nwere mmanụ nwa ife niile up to date onwere ife ejiri ego ya wee mee amara m ife ejiri ego ya eme the same thing kata asị anyị explain to ana abala akpasọ people na anala gị gas onwere ife eji ya eme ifu ife eji ya eme ịmara ife eji ya eme ife ma every month anala gị gas mana nke ga-eme ife niile bụ taasị nke a na bụ Bongorian and the Bongorian leaders they decide go no ka ejide all Bongorians n'onu. So both from east, north, west, and the south eji onye ọbụla n'onu now with this tax. Taasị ahụ nwere ike bụ something ga-atrịga ife nwee ka ọ dị maka okwesị adị. It depend me now, it depend you. It depends a businessman or not. They use bank. It depends a businessman on a south. They use bank. It depends a businessman on a east, west, everywhere. As long as they naga bank, it depends everybody. So last, if I want to get if a guy unite for the final push, obodo bongo ka egburu ya ka birthday cake. I know the NFA. But having said that, this new year, Makamele, kind NFA. Stay blessed and bye for now.